Heyo everybody, Haku here with my double review for Fear the Walking Dead's episode 212 and 213, and I am so freaking sorry that it's taken me this long to review these two, and that I didn't do a predictions video, and I don't really think I'll do a predictions video for the finale either, and the finale seems like it's going to be episodes 214 and 215 just back to back, so that's going to be really awesome. I'm glad, a part of me is glad that we're doing it, because like 2 hours in a row of like Fear especially, I think we're gonna have a pretty good finale, I'm hoping. So I'm really excited for that, but on the other hand then I'm like, that leaves me like what, 2 or 3 weeks to wait with no Walking Dead whatsoever. So like I'm like, maybe they should spread it out, just give me that extra week of Fear, even if it's an hour less each week. Yeah, so let's get into talking about 212 and 213. And I thought that the show throughout these two really continued, and since I have a ton of notes, I have my notes here with me to refer to, just because I feel like when I use the notes just as like bullet points to help me speak while I'm going through it, I feel like it's more entertaining and more natural, and when I don't have to think of what comes next in the story, I can just go off on a tangent of what I thought about everything, and I think that works a lot. I think that makes the reviews a lot more exciting, personally, so I feel like that's what I'm going to do from here on. But yeah, I have or at least for stuff like this where it's just really a ton of stuff. But starting out with 212, and like I was saying before I interrupted myself, the show really continued to like pick up. Like this second half of season 2, at the very beginning of it, I was like, I don't know about this, I don't know about this, I don't know about this. But then the last few episodes, I was like, okay, they're starting to build to a place I like. And I thought these two episodes, while they were not perfect, while they had plenty of things that you can complain about, I thought that these were overall really good. I enjoyed these two. And that's what makes me hopeful for the season finale. I'm not sure, I'm hoping our season finale is a complete story and it isn't a cliffhanger leading over into season 3, but I have a feeling that it might be, just because it seems like we have so much going on and so much to do, and I'm not sure that we can fit all of that into just 2 hours, all of what it seems we need to do. But then again, the show often does surprise me with how fast we move through these things. But getting into the actual 212 and my enjoyment of it part by part, we see Francisco sneaking out, and he uses the blood trick, and I think this blood trick is getting way overused. I said it before that I thought it was getting overused, but now it's getting a little bit ridiculous, now that the little side characters that we barely know are using it. So, with that kind of a small problem, it's not really a big problem out of the way, they get captured by Marco. We see Ophelia traveling alone, which I thought was really badass, and we see a flashback to her and her fiancé, and her fiancé is going to Santa Fe, and she's like, well, I gotta stay with my family. So it's crazy that she turned down this guy that wanted to marry her, essentially, to be with her family. Like, that's crazy to me. And I'll talk more in my general thoughts about the Ophelia stuff, but I'll say now that I loved it. Madison's group makes the hotel a community, essentially. We see Alicia and I was about to be like Alicia and Hector. We see Alicia and Hector talking, and they're discussing their brothers, and I thought that was a really good scene. How Alicia said the same thing about Nick that Nick had said about her, essentially, where they're like, nah, they're out there, they're fine, they're not dead. I thought that was really, really cool the way they did that. And also to hear about Hector's brother, what was his name? Antonio? Yeah, I believe it was Antonio. Hearing that he is actually part of a gang that we know as people watching the show, it's going to be Marco's Narcos. So then we have Ronaldo back at La Colonia, telling Luciana and Nick that, hey, Francisco's not here. What's he doing? So, when Ronaldo tells them that, Nick's like, well, me and Luciana have to make the supply run then if you and Francisco can't do it, because if not, they're totally going to come attack us for the supplies. But that unfortunately doesn't work out for them. But the next thing we get to is Elena, Madison, Strand, and Alicia planning stuff for the community, which I love seeing that kind of stuff. I loved when we had that in season 4 of the original Walking Dead. So I really enjoyed seeing that. But they're planning, and then Eileen stabs Strand, and I called that bullshit. I knew it was going to happen, but like it's not like predictable in a bad way. It was like, I know that somebody's going to end up getting hurt, and we could see from the promo that it was probably Strand, and I was like, and I know it's going to be Eileen. So she stabs him sadly, but Madison tends to Strand, and then Oscar brings this dude Andreas, who is a med student, and he's like, I can help Strand, but I need the right supplies, so Elena says she knows where to find them. Then we go back and we see Alejandro freaking out. Yeah, Alejandro freaking out, and he's like, okay, nobody leaves the Colonia, which I thought was kind of a dumb move. And I love Nick's dissent. I think it adds a lot more to his character, where he's like, yo, I think you're making the wrong move. I'm telling you this because I trust you, because I think we're friends, because we're one big community now. So I love the relationship between Nick and Alejandro in general, honestly. Madison orders Eileen to be locked away, and she's like, okay, any future violence means banishment. And I think that that's going to bite her in the ass, because now I think that maybe Alicia or one of her people are going to cause violence in the future, and then everybody's going to be like, what happened to that banishment thing? And that's like, they're not tight-knit a group enough yet for that sort of thing to work out that well for her. I thought it was really funny to see her taking charge in a sort of dictatorship type of way like that, though. But she then goes with Elena and Oscar to the Narcos supermarket, and we find out that Hector isn't going because he still hasn't forgiven his brother Antonio for choosing to stay with the gangs over their family at the hotel when this whole thing started going down. We find out, too, that no matter how much Nick tries to convince her, Luciano won't disobey Alejandro, and no matter how much he tries to convince him, Alejandro is not going to change his orders. So Madison and Elena bring a cooler of ice and fish into the market while Oscar stays outside, and we see Marco interrogating Francisco. So dumbass Madison busts in there, and I do not know how she didn't get somebody killed. Like, I could have sworn they were going to kill Elena or Oscar there, and I was going to be pissed off at Madison. But somehow they all survived. It kind of made the Narco seem a little bit weaker, because Luciana's like, oh, they'll kill you for looking at them wrong. And Madison freaking busts up into an interrogation room while they're in their secure facility, and they don't do shit to them. So, that made them seem pretty weak. Then we see Ronaldo and Nick planning to make the trade in secret, because they're like, they're going to come after us if we don't make this trade. But we get to see Marco spotting Nick from a nearby, like, through the binoculars nearby, like, not nearby, but nearby in the grander scope of things, but not, like, off in the distance while Nick is standing on a rooftop. So that means the Narcos now know where this is, and they're not even going to want to make the trade. They're just going to try to steamroll the place, really. Or at least that would make sense, since they're supposed to be this big bad gang and all. But we have a really awesome Strand and Alicia scene. I like the character development there, and honestly right now they're two of my favorite characters. And you guys know season 1, I was like, I can take or leave Alicia. I didn't like her much season 1, but season 2 she has grown on me a ton. She is one of my favorites now. And Strand's always been one of my favorites. I freaking love Strand. So we have another Ophelia flashback of her choosing her family over the William dude who proposed to her. And now she's looking at the map and she's going towards the U.S., presumably trying to get to Santa Fe and find him, which might be a little bit too late on that one there. So Madison returns and lights up the hotel sign. Alicia has a great scene with her, again making me love Alicia even more. And then we see Travis seeing the sign at the very end. So, man, this episode, I thought this was the best one of the half season so far, just solidly the best so far. I thought the Ophelia stuff was great because you guys know I say all the time, I'm like, I really like the actress, but she's useless. I'm like, I love the actress, but the character never does anything. In this episode, this one episode, to me, Ophelia went from useless to being kind of a badass. She was doing what it took to survive on her own, and I respect that, and that's one of my favorite things to see in a zombie show or zombie video game or something, just surviving out there like that. So I think it was really cool, and something that I think we really needed to see from the character. I also thought Madison sucked. Madison was a dick. And again, a lot of the people keep complaining. I see they're like, her performance is really stone or wooden. She's like, she doesn't emote much, and I still feel like we're seeing that a little bit, but I don't think it, like I've said before, I don't think it's really on the actress. I think that that's the way she's trying to portray the character. So yeah, I thought Eileen sucked as well. I just don't like the character. She's barely been around, and all she's caused is stupidness. But I'm loving Strand and Alicia, and I'm also loving the new characters we've been getting, like Elena, Hector, Andreas, and Andreas or Andreas, whichever, and Oscar. I'm really liking them. So the thing I'm fearing most for this series is that, unlike the normal Walking Dead, where you're like, anyone can die, anyone can survive long enough to be part of the main core group, with this, I'm worried that, like, our family is going to be too safe and too protected by plot armor, while the side characters are not safe enough, and it feels like they can never become part of the core group no matter how long they're around. Strand is sort of becoming one of the core group, so I'm liking that. But I would also like to see if any of them survive. I'd like to see more screen time for Oscar or Andreas, or more screen time for Elena or Hector, because I really like Elena and Hector, so I really hope they don't die. I want them to stay around. So I thought the Nick development in this episode was good as well, and I'm liking Ronaldo, actually, even though we haven't seen him much, and Alejandro and Luciana, even though they're not like my favorite characters or anything, I think they're very interesting characters. They interest me a lot. They have really good personalities. I like the actors portraying each of them, so I think they're good. And yeah, like I said, best episode of the half season. Though there were some things like with Madison that I was like, okay, it's not perfect. So I'm giving it 8.5 fish coolers out of 10, just because there were a lot of things that could have made it even better, more they could have done, things they could have done better. But for what they did and for what they have been doing, I think this was a really, really strongly solid, good episode. And then I have a lot less notes actually on 213, but to talk about 213, I absolutely loved it as well, but I didn't think it was quite as good. And you guys know that I've been saying every time we see them, or at least the one other time we've seen them, that I am in love with this current Chris and Travis story, just because it's like, it's harsh, it's enjoyable, and it's just one of those darker, harder stories to tell about how they're falling apart, how somebody's falling to the darkness of this world. It's just a really cool story to me, so I'm loving the Chris and Travis thing. And again, at the beginning of season 1, I was like, Travis is the most boring character, before we met Ophelia, that is, or even before I started to not like Alicia, before I started to absolutely love her. I was like, Travis is kind of a boring character. I don't like the way he's too attached to the old ways of the world, but man, this season has just been constantly bringing him back and making me like Travis more and more. Like, the good in him and the selflessness in him, I think it doesn't have to be at odds with this world. That I really think he can be a good dude and still do what he needs to do when the time comes. So I'm really loving Travis, and I'm really loving Chris as a bad guy. Like, Chris is a terrible, horrible person, but that is making him such an interesting character. So yeah, there's a crowd at the hotel at the beginning, and somehow, this is one thing I can kind of nitpick at a little bit. They let Travis in, but they don't let any of these other people in. These people must not have been pushing that gate very hard. So yeah, I am a little bit, a little disappointed there. You'd figure if the people wanted in that badly, they could just climb the fence, they could overrun the place. But they're being very nice, it would seem. Very polite refugees here. Very polite guests. So Travis, back in the flashback of what happened right after Chris shot the farmer dude, Travis stitches up James's leg and buries the farmer, and James won't admit he's in pain, we see a little later on. So then later that night, Travis tells Chris off, and I thought that was a really great scene for both characters, honestly, where Chris is like, I'm just fitting in, I'm surviving, and Travis is like, no, you have to find this good part in yourself, you have to feel remorse when you do these things. And it was such a strong scene for both characters. I really liked it, and I really like both actors as well, so much respect there. And then Madison tells, back in the present time, Madison tells Travis that Nick is gone and asks about Chris. We go back to the flashbacks. We see Brandon decides that they need to go to San Diego, And Travis is like, San Diego is burned. But Chris ends up siding with Brandon because fuck Chris. So they have to stop when they try to go because James just can't make the journey. And Travis hears them outside discussing killing James and goes all badass mode and tells him off. But we find out that James actually killed a dude from their group named Troy who was bitten before. So Travis is like, yo, this is not the same. You're going to survive. Yours is just a gunshot wound that's going to heal up over time. That dude was doomed either way. But the James dude is like, yo, no, they think I'm dying, and that's good enough for them to try to come kill me. So beyond that, just trying to check my notes. So Chris tricks Travis and traps him and stuff. Everybody's gonna be hating Chris because of that. Yeah, dick move, man, dick move. And then Brandon kills James, and like, this was so sad for me. Not so much on the part of James because we didn't really see much from him, but more on the part with Travis. Travis tried so hard for this dude. He did so much, and then everything he tried for, everything he did, came up to be nothing. That was so hard for me to watch happen to that character, especially a character as nice as Travis. Like, man, it was, and I think that makes it a really good scene, just seeing how it affects Travis, not how it even affects the others. What it does to Travis, I think, is really cool. So then we see Chris leaving Travis, and again, great character scene for both there, for both characters there. So yeah, once again. And then Travis buries James and then leaves the farm, and here's where I'll have to give another nitpick. Why did he leave after all this? I guess there are a few reasons he could have, but he just talked up the good reasons about it when he was trying to get Chris to stay. Why is he going to leave now? But I guess he'll leave without Chris and try to find somebody else. That's not what I'm going to nitpick. What I'm going to nitpick is he left without a bag. He ain't taking any canteens, any water bottles, any water at all from the place. And you're just walking off into the desert wilderness. Like, yeah, that's a nitpick I have. He walks off from this farm place with no bag whatsoever. Writers or directors or whatever, you need to start remembering this kind of stuff, because in a world like this, that it sort of takes you out of it when you realize something like that just does not fit, does not make sense. So then we see in the present time, Travis regrets not telling Chris that he loved him before, or when Chris left him, and he said, damn you, Chris, instead of telling him he loved him. So he regrets that. And then we see Alicia and Andreas are actually checking on 43 refugees, so now we know the number, and they're making sure none of them are infected before letting them in, and figuring out what to do from there on. So Madison takes Alicia to the pier and like apologizes to her, and again, a great character scene. I didn't really feel much from Madison. Madison really didn't seem very affected by it. And again, it was more portrayal than writing, I feel. Not that the actress is bad, just that I'm not sure the way that she's portraying Madison is the best way that this could have been done here. Madison really didn't show very much emotion here. But we find out that Alicia's father actually committed suicide, and that Madison kept it a secret because she thought that Nick was too much like their father, that Nick might follow the same path and maybe even kill himself, do the same thing if he found out. So that's why she kept it a secret. Again, really good scene for Alicia's character, though. Alicia's character getting so much good development lately. Then we see the group with Brandon and Derek at the very end arriving at the gate, and that's where we end off. So they're likely going to come in next episode, and Travis is going to want to kill them, and Madison's going to have to be like, no violence, guys. And Travis is going to be like, no, I want to kill these pricks. And I think Chris might actually be with them, so it'll be interesting if Chris comes back into this place, if he's like, yo, and Travis knows what kind of people they are, but they can't kick them out. They can't do anything about it because they have to keep up the appearances or whatever, and Alicia's going to probably want to kill him because she doesn't trust Chris either. I just think that that's going to lead to some drama. I think Chris is going to be there with them. So yeah, about this episode, I loved the Chris and Travis story. I thought it was really good character work this episode for both of them and for Madison and Alicia. Not as much for Madison, but for all four of them, I thought we had good character development. And I thought even with the good character development, we still had a lot of excitement in there. So, really good on all of those points. Again, one of the more solid episodes this half season. solidly for me 8 mercy killings out of 10. Ooh, that one was uncreative. That one was dark. But yeah, 8 out of 10. I thought it was solidly good, but there were a lot of things that could have been much better. And that's it for the review of these 2 episodes, and I'll be back next week with my review of the final 2 episodes, and then from there on, I think each week, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do some sort of lead-up video to the Walking Dead coming back. Maybe, I said I was going to wait until right before the episode to do my predictions for it, so maybe the week before is when I'll do my prediction, and then next week I'll do another maybe discussion of some stuff I think we might see or something. I don't know. I'll figure something out, you know? But, or maybe even do a follow-up discussion after the ending of Fear. So I don't know. There are a couple things I could do. But, either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So like if you did like the video, comment down there and tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it. Both episodes, really. Subscribe for more Fear the Walking Dead, Normal the Walking Dead, The Walking Dead comics, and a shit ton of other things that aren't The Walking Dead. Yeah, so that's it. Follow on Twitter if you want as well. I'll try to keep you updated there whenever I post anything, push anything back, anything like that, really. And that's it. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.